Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. Me and Benji are going to be discussing what we would consider as game week 2. So it's been the next lot of the second lot of games that everyone have played. Still early doors, still a lot to figure out. People are just getting settled. Some people are making massive impacts, and we're going to talk all about it. So make sure before we continue, hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff. Because we're going to be bringing you lots of content for this World Cup. So let's get into it. New Zealand versus the Netherlands. That was the first game of this game week. Not much to talk about because it was pretty much expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't really much that surprises there. I suppose aside from people still underrating um, Mitchell Santner as the class all-rounder that he is,
Yeah.
coming out and scoring a blistering 36 off 17 balls. And then I believe taking what's currently the tournament's only 5-wicket haul so far as well. There's definitely a story in that, and I want to talk a little bit about this in terms of how this World Cup so far has been a batter's game rather than a bowler's game. There's been some remarkably high scores. I think we've had up to including today now. I think that's now 10 or 11 hundreds in the tournament.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous.
And one fifer. Like there's just something going wrong there, isn't there? With the equal challenge between bat and ball. But yeah, New Zealand played fantastically. All of their top order, with the exception of Glenn Phillips, who was just slogging, scored runs. It was beautifully set up actually by Devon Conway and Will Young, who got off to a really good start, and I think I put on a 50 partnership by the time they lost the first wicket, and then the second wicket partnership between Will Young and Ravindra took them to over the halfway point of the game. And again, we're seeing Ranchan Ravindra really just showing how much of a class act he is, with bat and ball. Does Kane Williamson even come back into this team? And then Netherlands actually, Zach, talk to me about the Netherlands, because I remember they really impressed you in the chase.
Yeah. I was very impressed by the Netherlands in that they've not been beaten as much as I thought they would be beaten against both Pakistan and New Zealand. For me, the keys are their middle overs bowling with Roelof van der Merwe, Baz the leader, Colin Ackerman, and just a bit of their left arm seam is actually really effective. Like we've seen how good it was against New Zealand in those middle overs, how they kind of restricted New Zealand. And if it wasn't for Mitch Santner at the end and Matt Henry's 6, New Zealand might not have even got 300. And I feel like against lesser teams, like say Afghanistan, Bangladesh, maybe even Sri Lanka, this Netherlands side, if they play the sensible brand of cricket that they're playing, they could cause a bit of an upset. All it takes is for them to restrict a side to 250, 260, and they'll back themselves to chase it down. I mean, they're batting. There are people showing signs. I mean, Scott Edwards looked okay, although he didn't push on after getting 30. Baz the leader, we know what he can do. Max O'Dowd, yet to announce himself. Colin Ackerman, he made 60 odd against New Zealand. So they're showing signs of being able to challenge the top teams, which is what we weren't expecting at all. So yeah, they came up against a very good performance from Mitchell Santner. And I mean, New Zealand, they're used to playing that sensible game and winning these games. So yeah, it was always going to be a tough game for the Netherlands, but I thought they held themselves quite well.
I think the Netherlands really showed promise in phases of the game. So they were okay at the start. They were okay in the start of their innings. I think they opened up with 2 maidens for the first 2 overs of their bowling innings. So there's some really impressive stuff that they do, but what they haven't done, they've always shown promise in just one aspect of the inning. So either the beginning, middle, or the end. They've never really had all 3 phases sync up together. So if they can have one game where all 3 of those phases slot into place, I think they'll really have a fighting chance.
Yeah.
And speaking of all 3 phases slotting into place, Zach, why don't you talk to us about England versus Bangladesh in Dharamsala?
It's the way England played in this game versus how they played against New Zealand is completely different. I don't know if having that Darren Masala pitch actually helped because, well, not the pitch, the outfield. The outfield was absolutely terrible. And Joss Butler just said before the game, let's just not complain. Let's just roll with it. With both sides have to play on it. Let's just do our best. And David Milan, I mean, he is so consistent. That he's kind of like that Devon Conway style of opener where they don't give much away, but they're also able to score relatively quickly. I mean, we always think David Milan is quite a slow scorer, but he struck at 130, 140 of 107.
Yeah.
Like he's doing really well. And then it kind of, the innings worked perfectly where you've got David Milan and Joe Root kind of solid at the top of the order with Johnny Bairstow, Butler, Brook, Livingston batting around. I know Livingston made a golden duck. He's still got to get into the tournament. I don't know why, but I just feel like Livingston's got a game. There's a game around the corner where he's going to rescue us from a situation or score a big score. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know what
that proper cricket that he talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was such a fan of that partnership between Root and Milan. It was like it was 150 run partnership. I believe just maybe 151 runs, something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but it was just a really good partnership, and it was just really good to see the two of them just bat together, bat sensibly. Root looked like Joe Root again, which is such a good thing for England. We were saying at the start of the tournament, he's our batter to watch for England. It's like we need to, if Joe Root is in form, it's going to be fantastic. And I think the fact that Root and Milan batted through to 37, 38 overs, it meant that actually the rest of the team could come in and just try to strike those high strike rates. And the fact that, England lost some quick wickets with Butler, Brook. Curran looked a bit shaky. Chris Wokes hit a couple of beautiful fours. It meant that those players could just come out and just bat with freedom. And England really put up a decent score that in the end just seemed a bit too much for Bangladesh to overcome. I think for Bangladesh, they showed some real fight. I think particularly Mehdi Hassan and Shoreful Islam, they really, really looked good with the ball. I think particularly Mehdi Hassan. Some of the skill that he bowls with is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's what we said, isn't it? About he's that off break bowler. I think he's the all rounder that Bangladesh have needed for quite a long time to back up Shakib.
Yeah.
And then, then in the chase. It was the Topley show, really, wasn't it, Zach? You've been calling for Reece Topley for ages.
Yeah, he's lacked form for quite a while. It took him a few ODIs to take some wickets, and then he's taken some in his last few. And I'm glad he came back into the side. He's that point of difference with his left arm, tall. It's a interesting action. And the problem with Reece Topley is his injuries have kept him away from things like the IPL. He was meant to play for RCB last season, didn't because of injury. There have been various things which have hindered him. So the fact that he's able to play in this major tournament, we're seeing his worth. Bangladesh have always struggled against quicker bowling. We saw the evidence in Mark Wood. New Zealand looks completely comfortable against Mark Wood, whereas Bangladesh weren't so sure. But it was a confidence performance for England, I think. For someone like Adil Rashid to not go for many runs and take a wicket will do him a lot of confidence. Someone like Chris Wokes getting 2 wickets, those sorts of things are good for the England team at this stage. So I think we did well to come up against this Bangladesh team early in the tournament and also on a pitch that suits England. If England had played on a dry, raging Turner against Bangladesh, we probably wouldn't have got 364. Because as you said, the skill of the Bangladesh spinners is really good. But yeah, England paced the innings really well. And the way they bowled, especially Reece Topley, just broke the back of Bangladesh. To get rid of Shakib Al Hassan for one, if Bangladesh were going to chase down that score, he's the key. And we got him early. Not much chance for them.
Yeah. agree. I think there was a decent bit of fight back from Lytton Das primarily, but as you say, it wasn't enough for Bangladesh to overcome England.
Yeah. Right. Sri Lanka, Pakistan. Now, Sri Lanka in this tournament, they've faced the highest ever World Cup score when they played South Africa in the first game week. And now they've been struck with the highest successful chase in World Cup history as well in their second game against Pakistan. I mean,
it's tough.
I think we need to give credit to Sri Lanka's batsmen, in particular Kushal Mendes and Samarawickrama. It's the hardest name to say in that Sri Lanka side. But yeah, those two, their partnership in the middle overs, what's at the start and throughout the whole innings really it was really impressive batting.
Yeah, I mean, they made Shaheen Shah Afridi look easy to face. I think he went for he went for the most boundaries, the joint most boundaries in the Pakistan attack, along with Hassan Ali. Although Hassan Ali had 4 wickets to show for it. But they just written them to pieces, didn't they? I think. Also, with the exception of Kusal Pereira, that top 4 really laid that foundation. They lost Pereira very early on, but then initially Nissanka and Mendes built that partnership, and then, as you say, Samara Wickrama,
we'll call him Sammy or something,
just absolutely smashed it, and it was phenomenal. I think one thing Sri Lanka are missing is a bit of batting depth.
Yeah, sure.
Particularly, I think we're going to say this every single time we talk about Sri Lanka, but Waninda Hasaranga de Silva, they're missing him so much, aren't they?
For sure.
The fact that he's not available for the World Cup, it has really damaged them as a team, because he provides all 3 disciplines. He's a great fielder. He would provide a bit of stability in that middle order. We saw a bit when they lost Asalanka and then Dhananjaya de Silva, and then Dasan Sanika coming in at number 7. Chanaka coming in at number 7. Normally, that's when you'd see then a Hasaranga come in to be able to put some impetus back on. And the fact that you then had a relatively long tail really hurt Sri Lanka in this game. But then the way that Pakistan chased down that score of 344, it was, I mean, what a chase, and really set up by, like at the start of the chase, I thought it was really going Sri Lanka's way when they lost 2 early wickets.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, Rizwan, I think what we see with Rizwan is almost a contrast with Sri Lanka, in that Sri Lanka don't have that batting depth, but they're also, some of their players aren't really in form at the moment. And yet Rizwan, he's a player who's in form, he's class, he's experienced. And for him to come in that situation, that's what Pakistan would have wanted. And he and Shafiq just, they steadied the ship, absorbed all the pressure, and then just attacked the Sri Lankan bowlers. No one escaped really. They just took apart. I mean, Pathirana, we came into this tournament thinking he's a real key for Sri Lanka. He's the one who can take those wickets in the middle overs, have those important breakthroughs, bowl well at the death, and he was just poor. I mean, I think Dasan Shanaka as captain is a danger, because he's that quality all-rounder, and in the one-day game, you need to back yourself. You need to back your all-rounders, and Shanaka, he's the guy he's got all the pressure on with his batting, and he needs to be batting well for that batting depth of the Sri Lankan team. And also he needs to use himself as a bowler, because I thought the 5 overs that he bowled were really good. I mean, he didn't give much away, and he might not take many wickets. He doesn't look like an out and out wicket taker, but just that control in the middle, I just think, take away that captaincy from him. But Sri Lanka bowled 25 wides. And that, in a way, really is the difference, because that's 25 extra runs and 25 extra balls. If you even take that down to 10 wides, Sri Lanka are probably winning that game.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't quite 25 extra balls, because a number of them went for I think there were, and that's a point that I wanted to really pick up on, was that I think there were 3 lots of 5 wides in that Sri Lanka bowling. I don't know, for some reason, There were 3 lots of 5 wides. I think one from Theekshana, I think, and then a couple from Paterano as well.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on what you said about Paterano, because he, out of that Sri Lankan bowling attack, he is one of the players that has experience of playing in India. Like, he's played 2 IPL seasons now, alongside Theekshana, and I think we almost saw that he was in T20 mode the whole time. Like, he's a really good T20 bowler when he's got 4 overs. He's bowling primarily the death overs when batters are going for it. He can nail that Yorker every single time, but actually he needs to develop a stock ball, because he's trying to hit that Yorker, that variation, that slower ball, almost as his stock delivery. He needs to just go back and just work on that skill. And I think that'll come. It's what made Malinga such a good bowler, was that he was able to show all those skills, but he also had that top of off stump stock ball.
And he could nail his Yorker.
And exactly, he can nail his Yorker. Paterano is normally someone that we will say will nail his Yorker. Like 9 out of 10 times he'd nail it. Like, if we look at him in the IPL or in T20s, he would. I'm not sure if there was just something different, slightly older ball maybe, with because that ball's, taking 25 overs each end rather than just the 20 overs from a T20. Maybe that plays into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was poor. He needs to really, what's going to show his character is how he fights back from this, and how we see him in the next game.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, Pakistan looked almost faultless in this game, didn't they? The fact that, well, in the batting chase, their bowling was a bit lacking. The fact that they still had Shadab Khan and Nawaz to come afterwards as well was, they have that depth and they set that game up nicely.
Yeah, for sure. India-Afghanistan, yesterday's game for us was really the Rohit Sharma show. I mean, I think of all players, isn't he like one of the highest run scorers in World Cup history or something like that? I mean, he's done incredibly well over the last however many World Cups, and he's continued to impress. And he kind of made Afghanistan look ordinary. I mean, Afghanistan actually put up quite a decent batting performance to bat the whole 50 overs. We were thinking against an Indian side in home conditions, Bumrah bowling as well as he is, Kuldeep Yadav in the side, Afghanistan were going to struggle to make 200. So the fact that they batted the whole overs, made 272, I actually thought was a really good performance. Ably done by the captain Shahidi. He led the way, and yeah, it was just a solid performance. But was there any doubt in your mind over India chasing those runs?
I don't think there was. I think 272 never looked enough.
No.
On the Delhi pitch. Delhi, was that where South Africa scored 400? And
yeah, it was.
So Delhi has been a beautiful place to bat. And I don't think at any point it looked like any of the Afghan bowlers were going to take a wicket, with the exception of Rashid Khan. I think it was strange as well, because we'd normally say that Afghanistan are a very strong bowling attack, but they just looked shell-shocked. Majib was not at his best. He was bowling some drag downs. I mean, in one of Rashid Khan's first overs, he was hit for a 2 4s and a 6 by Rohit Sharma. He did manage to pull it back and take the 2 wickets and eventually get Rohit Sharma's wicket. But with all of the depth, again, that India had, the fact that they had that platform set by Ishan Kishan and Rohit Sharma, the fact that they had Kohli and Shreyas Iyer, both of them never looked like they were going to ever get out in that innings as well. Like, I don't think there was a single chance for either of them. And the fact that there was still, 4 recognised batters, and then Kuldeep Yadav, who at least knows the right way around to hold the bat. They were just completely outclassed, weren't they? And really, it didn't shock us.
No. I mean, Rohit Sharma, I kind of liken him to Johnny Bairstow in the fact that when he's on his day, there's just no stopping him. Like, he literally can just take apart any bowling lineup that he's up against. And yeah, he just took no prisoners with Afghanistan, did he? I thought also Virat Kohli getting a 50, finishing the game, he's he's looking good. He's had a couple good games so far. I mean, do you think Kohli is kind of reveling in the fact that he's not got the captaincy pressure, and also the fact that he's not like not everyone's looking at him in a way? Do you think that's kind of helping him?
I think so. I think he seems to just be batting without any pressure.
Mm.
In this World Cup. Like I mean, it was quite funny. As soon as he came out to bat, Naveen Ul-Haq was brought straight away back on, and Kohli absolutely took him to the cleaners. A bit of Naveen and Virat Kohli beef for those of you that were following during the IPL this year. Yeah, he just looks like he's so relaxed, doesn't he? Though the fact that he has relinquished the captaincy for every single team that he's playing for, I think, has helped his cricket massively. And yeah, it's a strong Kohli is a strong India, and a strong India means strong cricket.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like,
not going to complain.
Yeah, if you took away Kohli and Jasprit Bumrah from that side, you'd probably still think India are the favourites. So just having them extra in the side is just, it's just crazy how good they are as a team. And I think Afghanistan will be happy to have got that game out of the way, and hopefully win some other games. So last game, Australia versus South Africa. And you said in a message, you were like, you've changed your mind about who's going to be in the final. I think at the start of the tournament, you were saying India, Australia, or India, England. And then you said, I think it's going to be an India, South Africa final. Do you want to say why?
It's just the two games that I've seen. Like South Africa, they were always going to be our dark horse, haven't they? And I don't know if Australia are underperforming. I mean, they've definitely underperformed with the bat in the first two games that they've played, because they've lost some big games against India and South Africa. But South Africa have scored over 750 runs in two games. Yeah, they've had 400s so far in two games. And one of them was a blistering 100 from Aidan Markram. Quinton de Kock already has scored 200s in this ODI World Cup so far. And again, it was against Sri Lanka, who are a very talented team, and Australia, who we touted as having one of the strongest bowling attacks.
Yeah.
And again, he's come out and just played fantastically. Again, look now as a venue where there's been a lot of runs scored there. But they just look awesome, don't they? South Africa, like with bat and ball, and they're giving everything in the field as well. Yeah, I may be a bit dramatic putting them suddenly into the final game. You know, they've not played against England yet, but for me, the way that they've come out in this World Cup so far, they definitely look like they're in contention for a semi-final place.
Yeah, everything seems to be falling together for them. I mean, you've got the solidarity of Bavuma and Van der Dusen in your top order, mixed with the brutality of Quinton de Kock is just going to come out trying to score at a strike rate of over 100 from ball one. Yeah. And then the firepower, the engine room of Markram, Klaasen and Miller. I mean, it's awesome. And one thing that they'll be happy about is that when they come up against an India with a lot of good spinners, they've got players like Heinrich Klaasen, who's so good against spin. And yeah, I just think as well with their bowling, they've just got all the right things are coming together perfectly for them to choke in the semi-final. I mean, they'll get there and be like, South Africa are going to win the tournament, and then they'll choke it against something in some ridiculous way. So yeah, but South Africa looked very good, and Australia looked awful. I mean, they capitulated massively. South Africa bowled well. I mean, Lungi Ngidi put a lot of pressure on at the start of the innings, and I think he's a very good opening bowler in white ball cricket, be it one day or 2020. So he looked really good and put pressure on, but Australia they didn't know how to handle it. And you look at this Australian team, you think there's so much experience. Look at their top four: Mitchell Marsh, David Warner, Steve Smith, Marnus Labuschagne. But when you look at what's coming, the rest of their order just isn't firing to the extent that we probably would expect them to. Sure. So massive worries for Australia.
I agree. I think I mean, they've already made two changes to their side, to their initial side. You know, they've noted that the teams are sticking with their sides, but they've already changed their wicketkeeper and then brought Stoinis in as well to make another change. They look like they're panicking.
Mm.
The fact that no one got a 50 today, in that 177, and Mitchell Stark looked like one of the best batters today, really should ring alarm bells for Australia. I think there probably was a bit of drama in that game though. I don't know how much of the game that you watch, but Steve Smith's LBW, which was reviewed
Yeah,
and
some weird
given out,
decisions.
and Marcus Stoinis being given out by the TV umpire where when it looked like his glove had come off the bat. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether Australia have got a little bit unlucky. I was going to start suggesting that this World Cup is fixed, but you know we don't want to start those accusations so early
No.
on in the World Cup. Yeah, Australia really aren't looking themselves. They're not looking like the most successful team in World Cup history, are they? In this World Cup. That said, it's very early days in the tournament, and there's a long way to go. So stay tuned, keep watching. If you want to get involved with our fantasy cricket game, join us on the cricket draft. All the links are in the description. That is also where you'll find out what we mean by the game weeks, because we're going off the cricket draft fantasy game weeks for these. And yeah, some big games coming up. I don't know if you want to give a Zach's weekly fantasy tip off.
Oh,
You know, you are bottom of the NCBC leaderboard, so you're probably the right person to be giving the tips.
Yeah. Well, who's playing the Netherlands?
It is South Africa next Tuesday.
Oh man, pack your team with South Africans. Just get as many as you can in there, because honestly, they're looking solid. And against,
I think,
although the Netherlands are their bogey team, so maybe pack your team with Dutch players, and there'll be South Africans in there as well. So
Baz the leader.
Yeah.
I
But
think
awesome.
I think I'm going with a Quinton de Kock captaincy this week.
Oh, big call. But anyway, yes, thank you so much for watching. You can also follow us on social media. All the links are in the link tree down below. Leave any questions that you might have, any comments on our predictions, any things that we're getting wrong, let us know. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.